Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Spotlight with Shadow. Tonight, my guest is the wisest of men when it comes to social media. He is the fuck around and find out man himself. He is Pat the Wise Man. How are you doing tonight, my guy?
I'm doing well, Shadow. This has been a long time coming. Me and you have known each other for a good while, and we've talked many times about getting us to do a one-on-one sit down. So I'm happy to
Yeah,
be here.
it's definitely going to be good. So, my guy, you're a busy man. You're a father. You're a hardworking man. You know, you're growing up in southern United States, if you will. What is it like to be an American living the dream?
Uh, yeah, I mean, a dream's a bit of a stretch. It's a lot of work, man. I mean, I'm a father of three. I'm a husband. Work full time. I do content and things like that. But for me, it's just about staying motivated and staying motivated is real easy when you have three kids to provide for. So I wouldn't necessarily call it a dream. It's more of an ambition. I haven't made it to where I want to yet, but the goal is always. I feel like it's always within reach. I just haven't reached it yet.
Hey man, as a father of four, I respect that grind. I'm out here doing it on the daily with this show. So tell me, what started you for the love of pro wrestling? I know you're a big fan of it.
Uh, as the story goes, my father sat me in front of a television with WWF on it when I was 2 years old, still in the crib. And my whole family are wrestling lovers. My dad, both of my older sisters, they're more casuals more than I am. I kind of really took a loving to it and really kind of involved myself deep into it, with what I'm doing now and everything like that. But just it was kind of like a bonding experience. I grew up a military kid, and so my dad, he'd have to ship out and do, training and be gone for a while, but getting to sit down with him and everybody, to watch wrestling is just it's like a pastime in our house. And to this day, we still call each other after pay-per-views or during Raw to see what's going on. And if something's going on that they don't understand and they want some more background on, they reach out to me. Uh, they follow my socials and they follow what I'm doing on TikTok, and they're proud. They think it's kind of funny. They're like, we didn't think, 30 years ago when we put you in front of the TV that it would come to this, but they're supportive, and it's like I said, it's snowballed from the very first time I started watching.
Hey, I feel that man. Like I grew up with a lot of people that have started to fall out of wrestling or they're still hidden fans because they're ashamed of the stigma attached to it. And they go, man, how do you do the podcasting on it? I'm like, listen, it's a passion. I like to talk and I don't give a shit what people say, right? So at the end of the day, I'm going to do this to have fun. Now, you're also a TikTok content creator. Just I'll use that loosely because you just talk a lot of shit like I do. So
Basically.
what got you involved with the TikTok? Like I know we met through TikTok, but like what drove you to pick it up one day and just go with it?
Uh, I didn't when I downloaded TikTok. I downloaded it in 2020. Um,
Most of us.
I had yeah, most of us, yeah, when the world went crazy. I had no intention of making content. It was more of just kind of like for entertainment value. And I ended up on what we so lovingly know as pro wrestling TikTok. And I started following people, and I started just kind of uh taking in videos just kind of as I saw them. And then just kind of as time went on, just being the wrestling fan that I am, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn or anything like that, but I don't like to use the term mark. I consider myself an above average wrestling fan. I saw videos of people just saying stuff that just, I hate to use the term wrong, but it really was like, wasn't even opinion based. It was more just them being inaccurate with what they were saying.
Just
And so
stupidity.
one day I just decided to respond to Dimitri to
Mhm.
God on TikTok. He, good friend of mine, good friend of yours. He puts out great stuff. And I had disagreed with him on a video, and we went back and forth for like two or three videos, I think. And at that time, I had like 12 followers, and I think eight of them were bots. I wasn't planning on doing this. And then Dimitri and Tio reached out to me, and like they're like, "Hey, you kind of know what you're talking about. We're doing this live debate on YouTube on the Russell Spot on YouTube, and we're going to be talking about. I can't even remember what the situation was about, but you seem like you really know your stuff. We'd love for you to be a part of it. And so I hopped on that, and just being able to sit there and just kind of talk shit and talk wrestling, and kind of get my points out there and say what I wanted to say without anybody kind of bottling me in. It was a lot of fun. And then I realized that all of the people that I was doing that podcast with made wrestling TikTok, made content like that. And I was like, well, I seem to be pretty good at this anyway. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. And so
Mhm.
it snowballed from there. I mean, I started doing podcasts with them, Malik, of course, got introduced to OTT. Then it was the main event players. I did Players Choice Wrestling podcast for a while. I was a member of that before it folded. I ended up having to leave early due to work commitments. But yeah, man, it's like what you said, man. It was just the love of wrestling. I love wrestling. I love the ins and outs of it, the aspects of it, learning about it, learning things that I didn't know, getting other people's opinions as long as they're not wildly irrational, I guess would be the best way to put it. And also,
Mhm.
I'm kind of an asshole, and I kind of get my kicks out of proving people wrong and telling them when they're wrong. And so anytime I get to make a video like that and kind of just put somebody in their place, it tickles a little funny part in my brain. And so that's one of the reasons. But again, it was just more for the love of wrestling other than anything.
Man, that's why I figure, without TikTok, you don't meet the friends you meet and get the common grounds that you've built, right? You started at the bottom of this thing like I did, and we worked our way up, and we've caused a lot of shit. We've talked a lot of shit, but you know what? People respect our shit. So, being an army brat growing up, did you move around a lot, or were you just stationary and your dad is the one that shipped out a lot?
I was a Marine Corps brat, not an Army. Um, I
So
didn't
just
move around too often. No, you're fine. I was born in Hawaii. Um, that was more toward the end of my father's tour, though. And so when he got orders, uh, my family shipped out and we moved where I'm currently at in Corpus Christi. And most uh, military posts are 4 years. And so we were here for 4 years, and they offered my dad a few other places, and then they offered him a 4 year extension. So we stayed for another four. So I was here for 8 years. And then I moved again, and this was in 2000, and we moved to El Paso, Texas, mostly because they offered my dad, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, they offered him Denver, Philadelphia, and one other place, and he really kind of wasn't feeling it. I was only 9 at the time, which would have made my sisters 12 and 15, and he wasn't really feeling any of those spots. And they kind of told him like, "Well, we have one other spot, but we know you don't really want it. It's a small reserve unit in El Paso." And my dad's parents, my grandparents, live in El Paso. And he's like, "I'll take it." So we shipped out to El Paso, and I was there for another 4, and then when we moved again, the closest we could get to home was Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And so I moved out there until I was a freshman in high school, ninth grade. And my dad was up for orders again, but he wanted to upgrade class. He wanted to reclassify and kind of, new title, more pay, kind of things like that. And basically, the Marine Corps told him no. And so he's like, all right, well, then I've already been doing this 20 years. I'm going to retire. And so in '07, my dad retired. And here in Corpus is where all of my mom's side of the family is. It's where we grew up when we were kids. It's a very familiar area to us. So when my dad retired, we moved back here, and I have been here ever since.
Hey, I mean, that's more than I've done. But that sounds like a journeyman that your father was, and committed to making sure that you guys were happy, not just himself, right? So,
Mm,
which is huge, right? A lot of military families don't really get that comfortability that your dad made sure you guys had. So, kudos to your
absolutely.
father on that one, and thank you for his service. Uh, so now I know you're an asshole. I'm an asshole like you. So Where did I know that just doesn't come out of nowhere? There's always an origin story of where you grew your backbone. So what made you decide one day to say, fuck everybody, it's all about my opinion now?
Um, I weirdly enough, and I've told this story to a few people and they don't believe me just based on my physical appearance and my stature because I'm tall, I was an athlete, things like that. I got bullied a lot in school. Um, I wasn't very talkative, not nearly as much as I am now. I kind of kept to myself, and so I got bullied. I got talked a lot of shit to, and then I want to say it was probably like a year or two, maybe or so after I graduated high school. Um, I had reached a point in my life. My mental health was dwindling. My physical health was dwindling because I didn't want to go anywhere because didn't want to be out in front of people. And I kind of had a just a moment, and I remember the moment very vividly. I was sitting with my cousin, God rest his soul, and we were kind of just talking about the entire situation. And he told me, he's like, "Bro, you are perfectly capable of standing on your own 2 feet, of carrying yourself far beyond what you think you can. You just have to make the decision to do it. Nobody's going to do it for you. All of the things going on in your head can remedy themselves, but you have to make the decision to remedy them." And it was kind of that moment that clicked in my head, like, well, things aren't going to get better if I don't try to make them better.
Hmm.
And so from that point on, I kind of made the decision in my head that I'm not going to let people silence me. I'm not going to let people talk down on me. If you don't like me, that's fine. I mean, I've been on this earth for almost 33 years. I'm pretty sure there's an I Hate Patrick fan club with jackets at this fucking point. But I really don't care. And so it's just kind of built up from there. And that was, well, let's see, I'm going to be 33. So yeah, about 12, 13 years ago. And it's built up over time. I've worked in places where people treat you like the low man on the totem pole, no matter how hard you work. I am the youngest of three siblings, the older two of which being girls. I've always been kind of seen as the young one, the youngling. And once I became an official adult, it was kind of the realization that I'm an adult and you're going to treat me like one and talk to me like one. So if you're not going to give me that respect or that regard, I'm just not going to deal with you. I'm going to give back the same energy that you give me. And depending on what that energy is, you may not like what you get back. But I I've said before, and I've said it in multiple passings and multiple conversations that I don't treat people differently. I treat people accordingly. So based on how you act is how I'm going to act towards you. So if you don't like how I am, maybe you should take, a little deeper look within yourself. And that's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but I mean, my wife doesn't seem to mind, my kids don't seem to mind. I've made countless numbers of friends doing content creation that don't seem to mind, so it can't be all bad.
Yeah, I'm one of those people, right? I've never been on your bad side that I could think of. I mean, we've had disagreements, but at the end of the day, we both know the argument is invalid because it's just our opinions and we can respect that. But we're both going to be bullheaded assholes and still go at one another.
Absolutely.
Now, man, I credit you a lot because you juggle a lot. And I'll let you just in detail describe if you choose to what you deal with. But I know if you're a girl dad, you work hard to provide for your family, you take no days off, and then you come and do shit like this. So, man, tell me the day in the life of Pat.
Yeah, man. I'm a father. I'm a father of three. My youngest is my daughter, so I am a girl dad. She is also nonverbal autistic, so I'm the father to a special needs child. Like I said, I work full time. I'm an environmental technician at a petroleum refinery. Basically, in dumbed down terms, I work in a refinery that makes gas, and my company's job is to make sure that no chemicals get into the soil, nothing gets into the air. We do the cleanup process for everything like that. It's currently right now, just with the stint that I'm on, it's 7 days a week, 10 hours a day outside. 109 degrees it was today.
Mm.
Long sleeves, boots, jeans, hard hat, the typical blue collar man's uniform. It starts every morning about 5 a.m. I wake up, get myself dressed, kind of drag myself out of bed. Uh, Luckily, I have an amazing wife that, I is allowed to sleep, and then when she gets up a couple hours later to get the kids ready for school, she handles that. But I go into work. I work like 10 to 12 hours a day, depending. Uh, I leave work. I pick up my daughter from daycare, come home, shower, grab a bite to eat, and relax. And weirdly enough, things like this for me are relaxing. When you spend day in and day out, just kind of, I spend more time with the guys at work than I do at home with my own family or with my own friends. When I get an opportunity, especially in a situation like this with me and you, that I just kind of sit back and just kind of shoot the breeze with somebody, even if it's not physically in person, it's relaxing to me. I'm not worried about schedules. I'm not worried about, things going on at work. It's kind of that whole, we have this saying in my industry, it's to leave it at the gate. So when we get to the gate where we have to walk in and out every day, if you have anything going on at home, when you enter the gate, you leave it there. When you leave work, if work is stressing you out, when you badge out, you leave it there and you come home. You don't take anything with you. So that's kind of what I try and do. It does get hard. Again, I was telling Scals before we popped in, I'm on day 17, I believe, right now, without a day off. I'm hoping I'll get Sunday. It's still up in the air. Um, but yeah, man, just doing stuff like this is fun for me. I genuinely have so much fun hanging out with people like you and with my familiar family members, and doing stuff with MEP and just anybody that's willing to have me as a guest or have me on for a conversation, just because with the life that I live, being a father, being a husband, being a full-time worker, I don't get a lot of free time. And so my wife is amazing, and she allows me to, I'm not going out and drinking, I'm not going out and partying, I'm not going out and doing drugs, I'm not doing anything like that. I'm sitting in my guest room right now having a talk with one of my homeboys about mostly wrestling. And for her, that's fine with her. So she leaves me to my own devices. She thinks it's weird, but she supports either way. So
Yeah, man. A
it's,
lot of
like I
people look
said,
at
man,
the
it's a
winter as
grind.
weird.
Yeah, they do. But I mean, again, if this is the worst of what I'm doing, I think I'm doing okay. But yeah, man, it's a lot of long days. It's a lot of little nights of sleep, but I I wouldn't trade it, man. I really wouldn't, just because everything that happens every single day, it continues to mold me into the person that I am. I don't think I'm done growing as a person, and I would hate to think that, because I think one of the worst pieces of advice that somebody can give somebody is to never change. I think you should be constantly growing, constantly evolving, constantly wanting to make yourself at least a little bit better. And that's what I striving for, whether that be as a content creator, as a friend, as a husband, as a father. I constantly want to be evolving in those aspects, but I still need to make time for me. You know,
Right.
uh, I've been told when I was going through some shit, that you're a you're a husband to your wife, you're a father to your kids, you're a friend to your friends, you're a coworker to your bosses. But what are you to you? You have to make something for you. And that really stuck with me. So that's, while I'm still doing this with my friends, and this is still, I don't really consider it a job because I'm not getting paid for this, but this is fun for me. This is what I take away from it. I get to sit here with a good friend of mine who I've known for a good long time, and just get to kick back and relax. If we were in person, we would be having this exact same conversation, just probably with alcohol. It's really the
Yeah,
only difference.
yeah, right. I mean, I like you. I sympathize with that. My days are long. Four kids, and two of them are heavily involved in sports. So like, I'm constantly going. So this is the times, the days where I get to sit down and I get to be shadow. I don't have to worry about
Mhm.
being, the husband, the dad, the nothing. I am just me. So I get it and I can relate to that. It's definitely a challenge to juggle things at times, and I do disappear from time to time. Like, but I will say, in knowing you for the last 2.5 years, your growth as a person is inspirational. And I truly mean
Well,
that. I'm not blowing smoke up your ass. You have become someone that if I came to with something I needed to say, you're not gonna sit down and be like, "No, Shadow, you're absolutely right." If I'm wrong, you're not gonna sit there and say, "Yeah, you're right." You're gonna tell me how it is because that's what you are as a person. And so that brings me to what I want to say next. And I've watched you with all the other people that you've been involved with, whether whoever it be. But I think you finally found the niche with the Familia. It's such a great balance for you and them. It works. And I am so happy for you.
I appreciate that, man. It was kind of a, like the cards kind of falling into place type of moment because and this is no disrespect, no shot, no any kind of ill will toward MEP. I love everybody at MEP, TJ, Loft, Leah, Nate, Deontay, even Zay, who gets on my goddamn nerves. They're still family to me. I still look out for them. Um, but when I met Chrissy through TikTok, and she had asked me to collab on some work with her, and then uh, through a little bit more interaction, she asked, she's like, I'm starting up this group. We're kind of an island of misfit toys when it comes to wrestling content and creators. She's like, but I really do think you would be great for this. We plan on building a network. We plan on, we're gonna have podcasts and merch, and we're gonna do all of these things. And at the time, I wasn't really doing a whole lot with MEP. We would occasionally do a live on Twitch or something like that here and there. But I really was feeling kind of stagnant, like I was in a rut. And I had almost considered just stop making content. I was going to just be a watcher. I was just going to, see what everybody else is doing, maybe occasionally make a video if I needed to throw my 2 cents in about something. And then when Chrissy reached out to me and explained everything, and then I met Brian, I met Doug, I met Richie, Michaela, Ebby, Joe. And I had interacted with some of these people before. Joe with Hot Take Wrestling, I'd interacted before. I love Joe. I think he's a great guy and he's hilarious. Um, it was kind of one of those things I was like, well, I was gonna stop, but now this opportunity has been presented in front of me, and it seems like it's really more of what I wanted when I made the decision to start making content. I don't think by any stretch of the imagination I'm gonna be famous. I'm gonna be a Wheezy, Santi,
Yeah.
that other
Yeah. Yeah.
asshole. I don't think I'm gonna be one of them, and to be honest, that's fine with me. But one of the main things that I really wanted in doing this is I wanted to build genuine friendships, that it didn't always have to be about wrestling, that it could just be a group of people getting together and having a fun conversation. And we really, really have that in the Familia. It's people from all walks of life, from all over the country, just coming together. Yes, wrestling, the love of wrestling is what brought us together, but it's so much more than that. It's a family. Again, hence the name, and it's really genuinely, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm so happy to be a part of it. And we are growing exponentially at every turn that we get. We're getting shout outs from professional wrestlers, we're getting follows, we're getting interviews. And so it's so much fun, man. I'm having a lot of fun doing it. And it's one of those things that I'm happy to kind of, you know, extend the olive branch to other people out there. Like, hey man, like come around guys. Like we do good stuff. We have a lot of fun out here. And so
Yeah, I find
it's
all the
it's a good
content
thing,
you
man.
guys do to be good, right? Between Richie and you and Chrissy and Bonnet and all of you guys. It's just it's good. And I'll pull the curtain back for a second. And within my inner circle, there's been talks of you guys, and it's always positive. It's never a negative, like, oh, what the fuck are they doing wrong? It's they're doing really good content. And I hope that off the top slash Rivet City Radio can collab with the Familia sometime, as we are right now, but on a bigger scale, and sit down and do some work because like you guys and us, we're building this genuinely. We're not doing the normal format that everybody else is doing. We're doing it our way to do it genuinely. And I love the like I draw some inspiration from some stuff that you guys have done. It's just amazing work that you guys are doing over there, and it's a credit to all of you. You all take the time, you work hard. There's no bullshit. I mean, it's all fun and games on TikTok, but when it comes to seriousness, you have what it takes, and I appreciate that because the hard work does pay off, and you're betting on yourselves, which is huge.
Absolutely, man. And absolutely, man, whenever Rivet City Radio and Familia need to come together and do whatever it takes, just, like I said, just extend the olive branch. I know, just in talking with the group and telling them, that I was going to be doing this and the promotion that we've been doing back and forth about it, everybody's ready. Anybody that's, even just before we started on this, Richie and Doug were doing a watch along for SmackDown on TikTok, and I told them, I needed to go, I need to get ready for this interview, and even Richie was like, best of luck, man. Whenever Shadow wants to interview the rest of us, just let us know. So I would love to do more stuff with y'all, man. I'm like I said, I think way back, probably over a year ago, I think I did one or two episodes of Sorry for the Interruption with you,
Yeah,
and
yeah, that's coming back soon too. So I'm excited to bring that back. So bringing in some of your familia for that should be a wild time, I'm sure.
oh, that'll be great. Just ask XLJ the OG about having this familiar on your podcast because he had me, Chrissy, and Joe on the other night, and yeah, we went off the rails a little bit, but it was all
I
good. It
think
was
I've
all good
seen
time.
some of that clip somewhere, whether it be Twitter or TikTok. I've seen it somewhere, and I just remember busting a gut because there was a whole thing where Christy was getting all mad with you guys, and it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Uh, so like this, it's a crazy journey, right? We met on TikTok. We've never been at wits with each other. There was a time where we even discussed bringing you into the network. Obviously, for reasons beyond both of our control, it didn't work that way. Which, in a way, is a godsend for you and us because it got everybody where they needed to be, right? I'm not a firm believer in stuff like that, but whatever happens, happens, and it worked out for the best for everybody. We're still working together. We're still talking. It's not like there was any hostility there. But I gotta ask, man, over the last year, you've come almost for full circle as a content creator, and we're the origin story of Pat the has been there. But now, where does the wise man come from?
Uh, it was funny because when in my early start of doing content, I was kind of running with a bunch of young guys, Loft, TJ, Zay, T.O., that group. I think they call themselves the Brotherhood. They're a lot younger than I am, and no shot to them. They're all great. They all put out great content. But I think just with me being older and having a little bit more knowledge, I've always tried to use the mantra of facts over feelings. So whenever I make any kind of content, especially when it's in a debate format or when it's disagreeing with somebody, I come with factual information. I'm not going to try and blow smoke up your ass. I'm not going to try and lie to you. I'm going to present you with facts. Even if you don't like the response, I'm not wrong in what I'm saying. And then it kind of, pivoted for a while to, me kind of making the defense for, the women of the IWC, the LGBTQ members of the IWC, just, me taking the time to basically, stand 10 toes for them because they deserve just as much support as everybody else. And so when that part of my content really started to gain traction, especially with me being more articulate, not stumbling over my words, not everything being slang terms, uh, high
Being confident.
vocabulary, things like that. Yeah, exactly. Things like that. It was actually content creator by the name of Enigma, he's been a follower of mine for a while. I had made a video and he had commented on it, the wise man of WrestleTok. And obviously that comes derived from Paul Heyman, being the wise man of Roman. And I saw it and I was like, you know what? I kind of like that. And so just I started signing off my videos saying, the wise man is spoken, the wise man, this is the wise man talking to you. And it caught on because everybody was like, no, he really knows what he's talking about. He can really basically quote unquote wrestling terms cut a promo. So the wise man's a very fitting title for him. And so once everybody else was on board with it, I changed the handle and that's, updated the logo and everything like that. And it's been the wise man ever since. And Luckily, at least to my knowledge, WWE and Paul Heyman haven't gotten wind of it. But if they do, please, it works for me.
Hey,
Paul's not
at
even on
least
TV
if so,
anymore. It's fine.
at least if a cease and desist comes from Paul Heyman, you can say you have his graph. You know what I mean?
This
Like,
is also true. Yeah, at least I'm in his purview.
yeah. I mean, that's cool that a follower, you drew the inspiration from a follower who thought of you that way. I mean, that's always cool like that, right? I mean, when I say we, I mean yourself and myself. We have been dubbed the fuck around and find out crew on TikTok because people don't like or try to come at us, and we shut that shit down so fast. I mean, it's fun, and whether they respect us or whether they dislike us or like us, no matter what, we're getting respect because we don't
Absolutely.
we don't we don't do that bullshit that most content creators on that app do.
Yeah. The whole fuck around and find out gang, fuck around and find out squad. Of course, it's myself, you, Shayna Hill, Mother Ray, and HB Bird. I don't really know if Bird is aware that he's a part of that crew, but
I don't know.
he is. But yeah, man, it's just one of those things that I think it comes from us being older that we don't we're not going to go back and forth with you. We're going to put you in your place, and then we're going to just keep on with our business because as much as I love doing this, and I genuinely do love doing this, I have way more important shit going on in my actual life to focus on and to worry about that I'm not going to, bend myself out of shape over TikTok drama. It's just, it's not worth it. So, like I said, when certain situations happen, when certain people talk outside of their neck and make outlandish statements and things like that, I throw my 2 cents in. And, it's kind of gotten to the point that like, it's the initial video that I make on it is me genuinely giving my point and topic and how I feel about the situation. Anything after that is me strictly just being petty because it's fun and it builds views. It gives me, it draws viewers, it draws comments and things like that. And I hate to say that I'm doing it strictly for views, but genuinely, I mean, I'm sure you can relate. Like I can do this in my sleep.
In the words
I
of
can
Eric
undress you
Bischoff, though, dude,
verbally.
controversy creates cash.
Exactly. And so again, like this is easy for me. I grew up around Marines. I grew up around I'm Latino. I grew up in a Mexican household around a lot of very, very strong vocal people. So me talking down to you isn't a task. It's not a stretch for me to do. I can do it in my sleep. So if I make a video about you and you retaliate, especially if you retaliate with emotion, oh, that's just, that's my green light. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to make this person feel worse. And some people say that makes you an asshole. And I'm like, it probably does, but I've never once said that I'm not one. So,
And that's just it. I mean, I think it goes back almost last summer at this point, if I stand corrected. Um, Me and you both, neither of our doing personally, but two people got canceled right off TikTok completely because of us.
yeah,
And it wasn't
that was,
no, it's not like we sent a gang out to do it. It's just what happened.
yeah, it was one of those things that I remember when both situations happened and everybody was kind of making their responses and giving their 2 cents and I waited just to kind of see what would happen and then I remember when I posted my video everybody in our circle was like, oh, okay, here we go, like now Pat's getting involved, like, and then you made yours shortly after and someone left in it got folded into like reviewed comments, so it's not public, and I need to go back and see if I can find it. But I remember somebody specifically leaving a content or a comment that said, "Shadow and Patrick got involved. This dude's fucked." It was like, yeah, sometimes you put your foot in your mouth, and I'm gonna be the one to pull it out, and give you the verbal ass whooping that you are probably deserve. And when things like that happen, again, it's never my intention. If someone is making content and they're genuinely getting enjoyment out of, again, that's all that I'm doing too. But when someone says something in the vein that those two gentlemen said the things that they said, it's called social media for a reason. People are going to be social about it. Not everybody's going to like what you say, and in their cases, nobody liked what they had to say. So, but it was more so when me and you got involved. It was like I hate to say it's like the big brothers of TikTok. Like, oh, big bros are involved. Like now it's serious. And
Yeah.
so once they were gone, it was more of a, for at least for a moment, there was a calm over the IWC, at least from TikTok. They're like, okay, they're gone. We can get back to having a good time. And that lasted all of about a month or two. And then, the next jackass appeared and we had to deal with that one accordingly as well.
Yeah, and that's it, right? For me myself, I moved away from doing a lot of live content on TikTok because I felt like the landscape has changed enough. But kudos to you, you still do it. I see that, and I try to stop it as much
Mhm.
as I can. Busy schedule, right?
Of course.
And you're one of the few people that if I see a 10-minute video, I'm like, okay, I'm watching. Like, I'm not typically someone. If I see a 10-minute, I'm just out. But for you, I'll listen because there's a lot of points that I'll take away from that. And sometimes when I'm talking wrestling, I do bring up points that you've mentioned, to people I'm talking to about it because it's valid points. But
Mhm.
in the last 2 years, and I say 2 years because previous to 2 years doesn't really count for much, but the last 2 years, have you noticed the landscape of wrestle talk, whatever you fucking want to call it, has changed?
Oh, absolutely. It was, it was very different when I started. It was very, and I hate to use the term like it was, and liken it to, it was a high school. There were cliques of people, groups of people that all hang out, and some of them interacted with one another, and some of them didn't. There was the popular kids, there was kind of the athletes, the rejects, whatever you want to say. But there were all these different groups of people, and as time has gone on, a lot of those groups have either gone away or have shifted associations and members. And of course, there was the cancellation of a bear themed content creator, and people have left and come back. You took your long hiatus. I took a step back from doing live content for a while before I just recently started redoing it with the familia, and it's not the same, man. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, because I think if it would have stayed on the path that it was headed, it was set up for failure. It was going to burst itself into flames. And so while it's not the same that it was, I like where it is. I like the almost the refresh of what it is now. I say a rebrand because it's still same old TikTok, same old IWC, but I feel like in the 2 years, at least with the people that I run with in my inner circle, and even the small outreaches that I have, I feel like they've matured a lot from the past 2 years. So it's just one of those things that nothing stays the same forever, and it changed, and now it's what it is, and we kind of just have to roll with the punches.
I mean, for me, I still have not come back to doing anything like that. I refuse. I mean, even on the network here, I don't do a lot of wrestling content anymore. I'm just over it, right? So I find a lot of more of these groups that have come out are completely, um, lack of better term, idiotic with their opinions and stuff like that. If you guys have a chance, you guys make sure you check out like Pat's stuff. Like he's spot on with a lot of it. But as I was saying though, a lot of these groups that I've noticed on the TikToks live when I'm actually on there scrolling at night now or just midday when I'm not busy, I can't get behind a lot of it. I mean, I recently got into a debate with somebody, and holy fuck, did they ever backtrack so fast when I made a point? And it was like, what is this? I'm not used to this. At least fight for what we're talking about here. It's almost
I, it,
soft.
it is, but I almost don't mind, at least when it comes to certain situations. If you're someone that has been talking outlandishly crazy, and then I come in and I put you in your place, or I give you a retort, and you have nothing to say back. For me, it's kind of like, well, where's all that energy you had for the past 5 videos? Like you, and I don't want to give this man a platform, but it's just in the aspect of recency. I believe his name was Jace. It was the guy who made the video about just when Mania happened, that he basically talking down on Samantha Irvin, and he didn't want to see crying in wrestling and that men shouldn't
Mm.
cry, period. And
I've seen
he
that.
went
I
off
just
on
stayed
this.
away from that whole topic.
Yeah. And I made my video about it, and that was going to be that. And it literally was going to be nothing more than that. And then I was in the MEP group chat, and he made basically just an entire video talking shit about Lisha. Lisha is dating Loft, and I
Hmm.
go to bat. I go to bat for mine, and so I made a
She's such a
response,
sweet lady
and
too.
she's great. She's so unproblematic, and she's just one of the women of the IWC that loves wrestling, and that's what I love about it, and I love about her and her dynamic with Loft. They're great together. Um, and it was just one of those things that you could tell she was upset. You can tell the Loft was bothered, and it was one of those things that was like, I don't care if people are saying that we just need to stop talking to this guy, that we need to stop giving him like, no, you're going to hear what I have to say. And then I think like a day later, he had DM'd me. He's like, no, you bring up a lot of good points, even if I don't necessarily agree with you said. But at least you responded without coming at me with insults, which I found weird because I told him in my video that his parents failed him and he was a product of failed parenthood. Apparently, I didn't insult him enough, but either way. And then like 2 days later, his account got banned, and I was like, well, there's that. So it's a double-edged sword because again, like I said earlier, I don't want to go back and forth with you. I really don't. I don't. It's just one of those things that I'm not going to make time for. But if we're having a debate, especially again, if you're someone who decides to be very vocal, decides to be very loud, decides to stake your claims, whatever. And then all I have to do is bring up one point and you backtrack everything that you've been doing for the past 2 days. Yeah, that's annoying to me. Like you just kind of seem like a bitch. Like you finally had someone who can stand up to you and can actually go word for word, bar for bar with you, quote unquote, and you fold. I mean, I guess that's a pat on the back for me, but you just look soft. So,
Yeah, you just look like a
I mean,
bitch.
yeah.
Especially when a lot of the OGs don't pay much attention now to a lot of the content people put out because we just leave them alone because it's whatever. But when you finally do get the attention of the OGs and they come at you, at least have the spine to try to put up a fight and don't look like a bitch in front of your followers that don't know who we are.
hmm Yeah, there's one particular OG that again I try not to have beef with anybody. It's one of those things that again I just try not to make time for. But there's one, and I doubt he'll watch this, and I doubt he'll ever see this. But he knows who he is, and he knows we have legitimate beef. And yeah, he refuses to have any kind of interaction or conversation with me. But if he ever does, it's going to be a very, very long day for him. And it's one of those things that's like on my like, my Santa's wish list that one day he'll respond. One day he'll let me, you know, he'll meet me in it. And like, we can do it on a live. We can do it on his podcast. We can do it on anybody. We can do it wherever, bro. Let's have a conversation. And I will verbally destroy you because it will bring me great pleasure to do so. But until that day comes, I'm just going to keep being
It's
the
never gonna
small
come,
no name that
Brad.
I am.
It's never gonna come.
Because you know
Um,
who it is.
I know. That's why I said it's never gonna come. And I'll talk to you more off air about that. So okay, let's switch gears to a little bit of different things here. Wrestling, primarily. Give me your top two matches of all time.
Top two matches of all time?
Yeah, like who is your
Ooh.
top two? Who's your one and two? It can be interchangeable, but who's your one-two punch that you go to bat for, and that's your match?
Man. Top two matches of all time. I'm gonna go with uh Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker at WrestleMania 25.
Classic.
Just classic, one that I'll always go to bat for. Um, and as far as it's kind of a weird one because it's recent and it's really kind of gotten lost in the shuffle and not a lot of people remember it. The very first ladder match for the North American title in NXT. It was Adam Cole, Ricochet, Pete Dunne, the Velveteen Dream, Killian Dane, and Lars Sullivan. I think that was the name at the time.
That's also
It's
the
just a
very first time on WWE television that they said super kick party.
really, I
That's when
was
Adam Cole
unaware of
shot.
that one.
He super kicked everybody in that match. I remember
Hmm.
that. I just watched it recently, actually. So yeah.
Yeah, those are my one and two interchangeable. Taker versus Shawn, just Shawn being my favorite wrestler, it being an absolute classic. I almost would put 26 in, but I just there's something about 25 that I like a lot more.
That story was
Um,
crazy. Like the whole thing, two
oh yeah,
years, was built
yes,
perfect.
absolutely. The story for the 2 years, the running up the hill video package is my favorite wrestling video package of all time. It's so good, man. It's and again, I can watch Shawn Michaels wrestle any day of the week. He can wrestle a broomstick and he probably still get something good out of him. And then with the North American title match, I call it beautiful chaos. It's just a car crash of a match, but when you have someone like Ricochet, who's one of the greatest high flyers to do it, Adam Cole being the indie darling that he is, you have the power game with Killian and Lars, you have the homegrown talent with Dream. Like it's a little bit of everything just kind of mashed into one, and then they gave them some ladders and told everybody go for it, and they really went for it. So those are probably, if somebody asks me, like I don't really watch wrestling, give me a couple matches to watch. Those are probably the first two I'm going to give them. I could go down a litany of others, but those are going to be my top two to start.
All right. Um. Now I normally ask this to the Northland guys that I interview. Northland Wrestling. Shout
Mhm.
out to them. Great company. Check them out if you're in North Bay, Ontario. Um. Now mine is going to be a little altered for you because you're not a wrestler in any sort.
I'm
AEW gives you a call, and WWE gives you a call. There's a $10 million offer on the table to become an analyst. Who are you going to work for?
ooh, that is an interesting question. Um, I I think I would go with WWE just because it's and I love AEW. I watch the product, I consume the product. It's great. It's actually I feel like it's really firing on all cylinders right now as far as storylines go and everything like that. But WWE is just kind of my bread and butter. It's my go-to. So I feel like I'd be able to grasp more and give more to the WWE product. So if I could be an analyst for either company, I would do WWE.
That's fair. What is your favorite stipulation match in any professional wrestling?
Favorite stipulation match? Um, Apart from the one that I just mentioned, the Usos versus the New Day, Hell in a Cell 2017. It is an incredible Hell in a Cell match. It's an incredible tag team match, and it was a match that brought me back to wrestling. I had really kind of tuned out for a while. I felt like with the terrible years of the guest host era and how they ruined the summer of punk and how everything just kind of fell off the rails there. I still consumed the product, but it was on a very, very uh, casual basis. And when I saw that match, it it blew my mind. And that's actually the first match I showed my sons to get them into wrestling. I was like, we're going to sit down, we're going to pop some popcorn. I want to show you all wrestling to see if you all enjoy it. I wanted to give them something that didn't require a whole lot of story. That didn't require a whole lot of context. It was just four really good wrestlers going into this giant cage and just beating the hell out of each other. And they are not like you can kind of see it. There's a wrestling ring behind me full of action figures. They have merch. They everything. They are huge wrestling fans, and it all stemmed from that match. So as far as uh, stipulation match, that one specifically. But if we're just talking a stipulation in general, give me a last man standing match any day of the week. I love long term storytelling. I love long matches. That's why, as much shit as he gets, I'll always tune in for a Triple H WrestleMania match because I know it's going to be long. And most of them are okay. They're not all great. Triple H and Roman aside, they're not all great, but I love a good long match, man. So last man standing matches any day of the week.
All right, fair. I got two questions left before I wrap this up. Next question: favorite strap of all time, no matter what the company. What is your favorite strap?
The Gift of the Gods title, Lucha Underground.
Okay.
No, I take that back. The right before it got retired, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship, before they turned it into this that weird looking crown W thing that they have now. The IWGP Heavyweight title. It's a beautiful title. It was beautiful. Why they changed it when they combined the heavyweight title and the intercontinental title, I don't know. But the new one's ugly, and they should go back to the original. So yeah, the original IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
That's fair. And now, before I end this, to go into the rest of my conversation before we sign off, what is your thoughts on the product that's going on? Because we've talked about Bray Wyatt in extension before, but I want to know what your thoughts are on the Wyatt Six before we wrap this up.
I'm I'm eagerly anticipating because, and I love Bo. I love what they're doing. They're never going to be Bray ever. No one in the history of professional wrestling from now until the end of time is ever going to be Bray Wyatt ever again. So I just want them to do right by Bray's vision. So far, I've I've been receptive of it. The therapy sessions, interview sections have been great. The slow kind of reveal. I mean, obviously we know who all of them are, but
Right.
the slow reveals to everybody. I think it's a little bit weird that they're going to have their first match on Raw. I feel like
I
that
was
should have
upset
been
about
saved
that,
for,
but it is what it is.
yeah, I feel like it should have been, throw them on SummerSlam. I mean, you could have thrown Gable and the Creeds and them on, opener or something like that. But
Continuity purposes, it would have made more sense, but I digress.
yeah, but overall, like I said, I'm eagerly anticipating. I think that the look is great. It's still a little bit off-putting to see Dexter Lumis with dreads because I'm so used to the slick back, swooped
Oh, but he
hair.
looks sick and
But
terrifying.
yeah,
I love it.
when he took off the buzzard mask and I realized it wasn't part of the mask, it was his dreads. I was like, oh shit, Dexter
I still
Lumis,
think it's hair
real.
extensions, but it still
Oh,
looks
I think
good.
so too, but it still looks good. I mean, it's better than any of Mercedes Monet's wigs. But uh, digressing. But yeah, man, I'm excited for it just because I mean, me and you have spoken about this at nauseum, and we both loved Bray. You, of course, have the tattoo. I literally am looking at a Fiend figure hanging on my wall. All of my boys' other wrestling figures have all been opened. They've all been played with it, and it was a couple of days actually before Bray's passing. They had gotten a box of figures for my parents as like a basically your grandchildren. You get spoiled. Here's wrestlers, and they had started opening them, and then they took a break, and then Bray passed, and I happened to be looking in the box, and I found that one Fiend one. I was like, nope, this one's mine. No one touch it. It doesn't get opened.
Uh,
So yeah, man, I love Bray, and I miss I miss having Bray on our screens, man. But if if Bo Taylor, whatever you want to call him, if he truly does well by Bray's vision, I'm all for it, and anything that the Wyatt Six will do.
I have no doubt and I say it like this, in Taylor to complete his brother's vision.
Absolutely.
Um, all right, Pat. This has been. I'm hoping we can sit down again soon to discuss more and get going more. But please, by all means, plug yourself, plug your network, plug what you got, my guy.
Uh, First of all, thank you for having me on, brother. Like I said, this has been a long time coming, and anytime you want to have me back on, just again let me know. I can free up time because I'm always willing to do things like this. It's always fun for me to sit back and shoot the shit with you. We always have good conversation. But ladies and gentlemen, my name is Patrick. I go by the Wiseman. You can follow me on TikTok at Pat the Wiseman, all one word, or on Instagram at Pat underscore the underscore Wiseman. I run with a group of ragtag individuals, and we call ourselves the Familia. You can go to uh, our leader Brian's Etsy shop, that is runtheropes.shop. get yourself some La Familia merch. You can get yourself some Wiseman merch. I have two shirts and a hat out right now. Use the code Wiseman15 for 15% off, as well as free shipping. Uh, and you can follow the Familia on TikTok as well, where we post all 10 members of us content all together. And come around, guys. We're doing a lot of really good things. You know, we're trying to build a safe space in the IWC, and a place where people come and they're not going to be judged for any reason. As long as you enjoy wrestling and you're not going to judge other people, you're welcome in the family. And yeah, man, I'm every day I'm grinding and I'm trying to do better. So at any point, if this ever stops being fun, I'll reach out to Shadow and tell him, hey man, we need to figure something out because the the light's starting to go dim. But right now, like I said, I'm having fun doing it. I'm planning on continue doing it for as long as I can. And anytime I get to do things like this, it's just more of, it's a little bit more of a blessing that I've made genuine friends doing this and that I get to do things like this. So once again, Shadow, always a pleasure and thank you for having me.
Hey man, it's been a pleasure to sit down and talk with you for the last hour. I enjoyed every bit of it. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Spotlight with Shadow. Make sure you check out the Familia on all platforms. Make sure you check out Pat wherever you can find him. That being said, ladies and gentlemen, next week's episode is with Northland wrestler Jimmy Spite. Make sure you check that out. Leave a like, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed. Make sure you follow all my friends that have come out and talked with us. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Spotlight. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.